Condor 1 to Roost. I've located Baby Eagle.
Guess you, me, picked the wrong spot to vacation, eh?
You will receive our most sacred body. It begins now.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my long-form review for Resident Evil 4 Remake. This game was released in 2023. I think it was March 2023. It's been a while, but kept you waiting for this one for a long time, huh? Amidst the stroll of bloodthirsty Spaniards and rabid wolves out there, I did have a legitimate reason for the long wait. I decided to relive and re-experience this game one more time before getting this one written for all the homies. There isn't a prompt remake here without mentioning the legacy that was paved by the original 2005 rendition of Resident Evil 4. It was seen as one of the most prolific action shooters of all time. You can't think of precise third-person movement and shooting without the blueprint that this game established at our doorstep. Think about Gears of War, Uncharted, The Last of Us. Resident Evil 4 walked so other successful third-person shooters could run. Over the shoulder was just a sweeping phenomenon. Every game developed just had to flex their own interpretation of Resident Evil 4's over the shoulder camera style for better or worse. Now move forward to 2023. The history with this remake is a very interesting ordeal. One of the main directors even shunned the idea because he said the original was just so godlike. It was personally perplexing because they had no distinctive clue on how they could top the original. When Yoshihiro Ampo was given the green light, he decided to strategize yet again on what the game should achieve. Instead of trying to strike lightning in a bottle twice, the team settled on another secret ingredient. What if we remade Resident Evil 4 and we decided to crank the dial up to 11 on many logical refinements? Despite a litany of internalized arguments and arguments amongst the community, one thing was certain. Resident Evil 4 Remake was born from the charred ashes. The gameplay follows the same action horror element that you come to know and love. You are Leon S. Kennedy, the bad enough dude who escaped an entire city from a zombie outbreak. You're given a task to rescue the president's daughter after a bizarre kidnapping in rural Spain caused the baby eagle to go missing in action. Leon has significantly changed, a lot more than you would expect at this point because it's 6 years later. He is more battle hardened than his original counterpart in Remake 2, who could barely wrestle one zombie. You have a series of leg kicks, roundhouse kicks, suplexes, grabs, and various parry moves that will make Steven Seagal cry to his own mommy. The big deal about this game is the new addition to the knife parries. If you're a character action enthusiast like me, then the fundamentals are simple to learn and yet complex to master. When a Ganado attacks our intrepid hero, you'll be given a button prompt in order to deflect an attack. This means that you tap L1, and this circumstance could have three outcomes that I noticed from the following. The first runner-up is A, what happens when you don't really try to parry and you do it way too late. you'll just simply take damage. This means that the weapon will shred through Leon's entrails, no problem. B, you missed the prompt, but you tap the parry button and you may initiate an imperfect parry, or what we like to call a block. Leon will simply block the weapon's attack without an open window for a counterattack. And then C is the main course, the main event, the main thing you want here. Tap the prompt at the right time and you'll hear a distinctive clash. When you tap L1 and the enemy's attack hits you and you parry it on time, you'll hear a clash sound, and then Leon will instantly be able to do a counter move. Congrats, this means that you're free to kick Ganado ass up and down the street, no problem. A perfect parry adds a new dynamic to the game's mastery, and it gets a little insane when this could be done for sub-bosses, and even enhances a section of the game that I think is better overall than the original. That segment is Krauser's knife battle, and it's so cool that it changed from a QuickTime event into an interactive gameplay segment where it's just still on bone.
Are you being controlled by that cult? This has nothing to do with them. I'm a free man who made a choice. Too slow. Major, you're not thinking straight. My mind's clearer than it's ever been. Now focus and show me what you got.
I gotta say, I love this testament personally. It worked perfectly for this boss battle, and my only complaints are just slight fundamental flaws in certain cases. For example, the knife has a frontal radius for parry maneuvers, meaning that Leon can only be safe against what's in front of him. Of course, naturally, you think about it, that makes sense. Sure, they added some bells and whistles like being able to parry projectiles as well, so it's not the worst thing on earth. I just miss doing the dodge maneuver from Resident Evil 3 Remake where Jill would do a combat roll, and it was safer because you don't get beamed in the back of the head from attacks from behind. Leon is just pretty much defenseless from behind, which will happen more often than not. It will happen more than you could shake a stick at, and I just wish that you could do some quick time event where if you still have knife durability, you can stab the Ganado from behind grabbing you, or the sub boss from behind grabbing you, and it beats the pistol whipping of the X button to do a random breakaway move. I just think that it would have made perfect sense, especially because the knife durability will be in play and you can evade certain attacks as long as your knife isn't broken. You wouldn't be attacked from a blind spot, you would have a defense maneuver just in case. I do think that, it is a clear enhancement of this game if they adhere to that constructive criticism, because you can't use your knife all willy-nilly. And I do like that the durability is in play as well, like every strike, every stab, every parry on an enemy will reduce the blade to atoms. That's where our old buddy comes in from the old drinking days. Stranger. Now that's an unlocked memory. The merchant will sell you various goods in peak fashion. They've put in all the savory bits as well. They have a new trading system along for the ride. Spindles can now be highly sought after and used as currency within the gameplay. You could do particular side quests that involve finding unique items within the world, eliminating sub-enemies, or shooting medallions across the map. It's like being given a task and you have the task to find all the stuff in order to unlock either more treasures, more guns, more additions to your attaché case. You can get a variety of items just by having a shitload of spindles, and what you want is the elusive exclusive ticket. This ticket is able to grant you an extra parameter on your guns and make your guns either stronger, have more ammo, or do more critical rates when you hit an enemy in the head and their heads will explode like a watermelon. It's probably one of the more dynamic bits of gameplay because they're taking the original blueprint and they're also adding on top of it in order to make you more engaged, do more stuff, and explore. And I think exploring is the most important thing with this massive beast of a game. Oh, okay. This is now the perfect time to illustrate that I forgot to talk about the stealth elements in the initial script of RE4 Remake, so I'm deciding to put it into here so you guys can sort of glean my opinion on what I think about that so far. Stealth is not new to Resident Evil, but it is new to RE4. I think stealth was implemented in games like Revelations 2, for example, where you can just sneak around, and it plays precisely like that, where it's very bare bones. You sneak up on an enemy and you get a stealth kill, and the bodies, you know, they aren't seen, interestingly enough, by other enemies. It's not like deep stealth you would get in Tenchu or Splinter Cell or Metal Gear. Therefore, it's just a nice little perk they added to where you can either decide to go loud or sneak in, kill maybe one or two enemies, and then it goes into a loud phase again. And I think it was personally fine. I don't have a problem with it. I would rather have them try to implement some feature where it is relatively new to a remake than to do nothing with it at all in terms of varied gameplay mechanics. Overall, a welcome addition, but probably not as deep as you would like or believe it to be upon first initial glance. You're just basically sneaking around until you kill like 5 assholes with a knife, and then everything goes loud, crazy, and bonkers, and you're back into the action horror, the action thrill of it all. You also have these new passive abilities that can be won from the shooting range after getting either these gold or silver tokens. Think we need more useless bottle caps of the previous Resident Evil game? Well, think again, baby. They reworked the system. Now we can collect figurines that will be very useful to your person. You put these on your attache case with charms, and they will give you more ammo, either more herbs, or you'll have better movement across the environment. Guns also feel really crunchy when you blast someone away. They tear in half like a crunch bar. You're ready to just delve into that shit. The gore was so superb. I swore I shot someone in half, and I just saw half the plaga entrails like dangle from his spine on the floor. That's a crazy attention to detail. When we combine elements together, you can plainly see that Resident Evil 4 Remake has an impressive and fundamental synergy, especially in its approach with the combat, the game design, and the generalized layout. It all feels familiar, but the player freedom is a lot more larger to play with. It's a newly constructed pool that got built out for more useful side content to play with. I know there's been like a lot of gushing over this game, so I'll counteract that with a few more common criticisms. Another issue I have with the gameplay is that they excluded the command for Ashley to stay put whenever you friggin' want it. You see, in the original Resident Evil 4, you told Ashley to either wait or follow Leon closely as she could. For some reason now, you have like only 2 options. That doesn't aid tactics all that well. Ashley will either stick to Leon like super glue on a cat, or she'll either follow him at only a slight distance. Like, what the hell is going on here with this one? If I want Ashley to stay in a cleared room while I go and mow down other people and the population of Spain in another room, I don't want her involved into the situation. I want her cute ass to stay firmly planted where she is. It's like, I know you can shove Ashley Graham in lockers for specific moments, but I don't think that's good enough justification for commands being lost. Although you can pray to Resident Evil Jesus that you can focus on your health and put it all on Leon now. This is a godsend, giving Leon health upgrades and health items, because micromanaging Ashley is a thing of the past and it needs to stay dead and buried. Ganado can cart her away if she's in danger, which is still reminiscent of the original, but there's none of this bogus health management for that character. It's not prevalent for her anymore. She has a down state, of course, and if the Ganado decide to sweep the leg once more, then it's game over. I found that to be a little bit more tolerable than just, you know, she takes gradual damage. I also found that the stun locking factor is a bit iffy in this game. Farmer John smacked Leon in the head more than once in the original. Sometimes he has enough time to recover because he does this little recovery flinch when damage is taken. But you could use like your valuable time to assess the environment if this happened. The original gave you slightly more of a chance here. It's kind of weird to say, and you can get out a little bit before you got fully surrounded and realize that Leon is being put on low health. In this game, it's almost like if you make one slight and fatal error that you're put into a world of pain. A multi-hit genjutsu will rain upon you like no tomorrow. It's almost like Itachi Uchiha himself came into the Resident Evil 4 village and put you into a wooden coffin. Leon feels like a little featherweight in this game, and if you don't counter in time, you're gonna be dead by a multi-hit combo from numerous enemies smacking you down at once. This game at times feels like it has no invincibility frames whatsoever as part of the raw deal.
Oh my god, what a whammy. They fucking hit me back to back. There was no escape from that.
Otherwise, those are my only criticisms about the gameplay. Exploring and having more within our world feels like an enjoyable balance. The pros certainly outweigh the cons, yet it's still worth highlighting. It's worth highlighting because, well, fingers crossed that these issues don't carry sway into the inevitable Resident Evil 5 remake. The story is honestly the same as the original. Leon is sent off to a remote village in Spain to rescue the president's missing daughter. What he finds there is a new horror and a cult-like sect called the Los Illuminados. That's a mouthful. Who wants to send Ashley back with a parasite known as the Los Plagas. They want Ashley to go back to America, then his Plagas would get into the president, and then a new world order would take hold. I guess they would call it invasion of the body snatchers, but Leon isn't about to allow that to happen, and interestingly enough, we see Leon is also infected throughout this entire gourmet journey. Shinji Mikami only had a few weeks upon writing the script for Resident Evil 4 OG. It's paper thin applied to this game, where the plot is mostly just an action movie. I don't think there's many ways to describe this story because it's paint by numbers thin here. Now, I'll give the remake the benefit of the doubt because there's segments where they tried to make better interconnectivity, namely with Leon himself exhibiting more survivor's guilt, to hope that his change and his skills can prevent further casualties at bay. I like that about his character this time around, as well as placing Jack Krauser in a mentor role. Elements of rookie versus master might seem a little simplistic, and it is simplistic reasoning. However, I think this worked far better than the OG did because, well, now Leon has more interconnective tissue with Jack Krauser versus him just showing up out of the thin blue and implying his thought that, well, his reveal was shocking to anyone but Leon. I died in a plane crash 2 years ago. Who are you? The player had no idea who the heck this was at this point. Krauser was only fleshed out via supplemental material at best, which is why making this story personal between both of the men at hand was a better idea. I also love that Luis is more or less maintained in this game, even heightened with this buddy cop relationship that is central as a hero with Leon. So it hits even harder that when Luis dies, well, he's infectiously likable. You find that there is more of a tie to Resident Evil 3 as well when Luis did work for the Europe branch of Umbrella. It's one thing to appreciate here with this game, and it's the fact that they tried to take some time in melding elements of Resident Evil 2 and 3 to create cooler and better story beats. Ashley was also equally enhanced, which gives her a less bratty resolve and some humanized elements that stood true here. For example, she stabs Leon after being mind controlled. She feels bad about it. She blames herself, and the hero pushes her onward to survive this situation. It's good writing that really shows how much effort was put into making the low points even better with the OG, because I hated the original Ashley. Sadler doesn't get much of a command presence this time around. He doesn't show up physically, which is a bit disappointing. It's a change, surely, but I can't say it was super great in my opinion. Instead, they focus on these oddball Jedi mind trick sequences that Leon goes through, where the screen is like all blue and Sadler is in Leon's head. It's more of a pick your poison sort of deal. But I prefer when Sadler was physically and mentally imposing. Graphically, this game looks incredible. If you thought that Remake 2 looked good, then well, Remake 4 is significantly more to glare at. Intense darkness, crucifying vistas, and severed heads on wood pikes. It's just all disgustingly beautiful as a centerpiece, and it sucks you into the world they're trying to create faster than a chainsaw going through Leon's torso. The details on the villagers are also immaculate, just pale skin and the flesh, and the erratic movements are all well animated, and honestly, the characters just look better than they ever did in this game. You could also shoot this one into the sun and say this was relatively impressive by the vast detail that was given. It's like one small step for man and one giant leap for the RE engine. The replay value is the most interesting sauce on this turkey, so as a full-fledged release, I can say you'll never be disappointed here. Resident Evil 4 Remake is completely booming with content, almost overflowing like a damn cup at this point, and it's a good cup of wine. First, you have the Separate Ways DLC, which tunes up the campaign of that a little bit, and it tunes it up a notch with various additions. You don't have to deal with the dumb boat segment anymore like you did in the original Separate Ways, where you had 600 gun turrets saying, "Hello, John Wayne, is this me? Mods, let's turn her into a crimson piece of Swiss cheese." It is one of the worst levels I have ever played in the original, with the original Separate Ways. And in this DLC, Ada, she has her own plot, this, her own goals and motivations in finding the elusive Amber. The Amber is a crystallized rock that contains a fragment of the parasite. Wesker wants this conventionally, and he explains this in dialogue where he needs it now. He even shows up at one point, which is absolutely fucking funny considering you think that Wesker is still off somewhere in a remote location monitoring his new umbrella, but no, he has a freighter at hand and he goes and saves Ada. So make of that what you will. It's a nice twisty little story that adds more sub bosses and urgency to Ada's story, and yes, I think her getting infected was actually unique this time around. It places the character in a desperate limbo to get her job completed by any means necessary. Most of the cut content in Resident Evil 4 Remake was also kind of rebundled and put into newer stage design in order to fit Ada's character, like the laser room hallway sequence. It's not lost in time like the content of Resident Evil 3 Remake was, so that is what I like to call a lateral move. Enjoyable campaign throughout, and it's a bit more of a balance this time because Ada has more versatile weapon selection. Her shotgun is a bit more beefy, which is one of my complaints that I had with the original. It felt like her equipment in that was mostly slapped together with no forethought on the PS2 release. In this one, it feels like more thought out premises where you proceed against enemies. Mercenaries is also once again back to mop the floor with this breakneck gameplay. Find the timers, fight and survive, and then you get to fly into the sunset with hopefully what I assume would be the elusive and hefty S++ rank. The same characters return along with Louise as a new entry, a new baseball player up to bat. Is it a bat or pipe this time around? No clue. But if you love the fast-paced gameplay and combat of not only the OG campaign as well as the arcadey style of the original Mercenaries, then it's worth checking out this one for sure. Double the kudos if you can score the hand cannon just one more goddamn time. I do love that there's a new power meter as well in Mercenaries, and it's like a passive buff on your character. It can constitute towards either more melee damage, more explosive damage, or just punching things into a goddamn meat puddle with Albert Wesker himself. It's just what the fans wanted and asked for after all this time, with Wesker mode being at RE0, so playing with more of the character, you are just wholeheartedly rewarded here with one of the hypest like characters in the game. He can fucking counter axes with his bare hands. Who doesn't want that? I think they deliver on something actually convenient to not only just RE4 players but Mercenaries players in general. You challenge yourself and you climb up the ranks for sure, and it's just so satisfying. On top of the cool replay value I mentioned, there's the 16-hour campaign, new game plus, costume unlocks, shop unlocks, weapon unlocks, infinite ammo, that classic incentive just coming back for more, and it's like the smell of a fresh car. You just keep playing because you want more. Overall, Resident Evil 4 Remake is a Nigh masterpiece. Voice acting is great, sound design, characterization, and replay value. You can just tell that everything was given love and attention and care and compassion. It just really feels deserved, and despite some small stumbling blocks along the way, I can honestly say it was my personal game of the year for 2023 for a reason. I give Resident Evil 4 Remake a 9.5 out of 10. That is my review for RE4 Remake. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed that, had fun with it. I spent some time, you know, this was my first draft on the script. It was my first draft and I finished it in like one day, and that's when I just recited everything. So that's quite impressive really, that I'm getting used to, you know, making content like this. But this game is massive. It was my personal game of the year for 2023, and I still have that stance and opinion. Honestly, after all this time, I feel like small stumbling blocks, but it's definitely one of the finest remakes for Resident Evil 4 I think we'll ever receive, and that's saying something generous right there. Definitely recommend this game. Buy it if you can. It went on sale like before with the gold edition, and it had like all the content there, so make sure you get that version so you can get the Ada Separate Ways campaign. But until then, tell me what you think of Resident Evil 4 Remake. I am signing out. I'm Renegade Operative. I am out of here, people. Have a good day, take care of yourselves, be good people, and once again, laters.